My name's John Wagstaff. Splendid. One of the first things that surprised me when I moved here was how individual each of the states is. You don't realize this when you're back in Europe. You think, well, there's the United States of America, it's ruled from Washington, that's the way it's done. You know, Washington says do this and people in the states do that. So the amount of autonomy that the individual states have to set things like speed limits, taxes and things like that, that really surprised me. And I think it's good in one way, but it's bad to the extent that people think, well, what's Washington got to do with me? And it's not a very big step from there to say, well, what's politics in Washington got to do with me? Whereas, of course, in England, we are ruled from London, but London is no more than 350 miles from anywhere in England. I think maybe it's a good thing that I can't vote at this point, simply because I don't know enough about this country and this culture. So maybe it's a good thing. There are kind of cultural things that you as an American just know naturally, which I am still having to learn. And so I think it's a good thing that people can't get citizenship straight away, simply because you've got to have learned something about the country really before you should be entitled to citizenship. I mean, citizenship's a kind of privilege, not a right. And there's a world of difference, I have to say, between actually being here in America and seeing the process play out, and being in Europe and watching from a distance how America seems to run its elections. It seems much more a crazy system when one is looking from a European perspective. But when you're over here, it seems a lot more logical. I mean, it takes far too long, it seems to me. One positive thing about America is the way that it does reward success and it admires success, and but it can be a little bit brutal as regards failure, I think. If you're successful, good for you. If you fail, it's probably your own fault. It's not always your own fault. And having things like a universal healthcare system can help people through those bad times when they just need to be carried along. They do not particularly want to be reliant on the state, but at that particular moment, that's their best option. Yeah, so the idea is that whether you're in work or whether you're out of work, if you're in the country legally, you are entitled to healthcare. If you need a heart transplant or you've just got a nasty rash or something, you're entitled to go along to the doctor and get the appropriate level of care. You do not pay a penny for that. People will not normally put their head above the parapet and say, hey, this isn't right, and I'm going to stand up and say, you know, that my employer is doing bad things or whatever, because people don't want to be a whistleblower because they think, if I lose my job, I'm going to lose my benefits, my family are going to lose their benefits and so on. If you had a universal healthcare system where people did not rely on their employer for benefits, they might actually be more willing to stand up and report abuses, to stand up for themselves a little bit more. To me, that is one really strong reason for having a universal healthcare system in this country. I think it's a great country and it's got many, many good things going for it, notwithstanding the current situation. Several people over here, when I've talked to them about the financial situation, have said to me, well, it's kind of all right for you because you can just go home if, you know, if it all goes wrong. And that's kind of quite interesting because, you know, I see my future as being here. I don't plan to kind of cut and run as soon as things get difficult or something. So I was interested to have that reaction from people. From this person's perspective, anyway. Others will disagree, but that's just my own take on what I've observed so far from being here. It's my honest opinion.